another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market, where today this is a Wild Harvest Tour exclusive. This plant, which will be covered in the blog later, is an interesting specimen. Now, I know you're looking at it going, well, what could that possibly be? Zooming in, look at those fuzzy leaves and that spoon-shaped foliage. It reminds me of something. I wonder what that might be. Huh. If it weren't copyright infringement, I'd have the Jeopardy music here. But anyway, it looks exactly like plantain. Plantago major, which is a quote-unquote weed, even though it has uses, and I don't think of it as a weed myself, but apparently Big Agra thinks of it as. And we have a rogue, mischievous Fluffalotomus in the picture. He demanded he be in the next episode, so let's zoom back out. So anyway, the scientific name of this plant is Antennaria plantaginifolia, which tells you a lot. Its basic name, its common name, is Plantain-leaved Pussytoes. Yeah, I know, you're going, what a setup. The cat's in the picture, and you're talking about a Pussytoes plant. Yeah, no, that's coincidental. But the name, Antennaria, comes from the word antenna, referring to certain parts of the flower that stick out like an insect's antenna. Additionally, I should point out that the common name pussy toes comes from the fact that certain portions of the flower look like little fluffy cat toes sticking out. Henceforth, pussy toes. What? Were you expecting something else? Get your mind out the gutter. Out the gutter! Anyway, plantaginifolia means foliage like a plantain, referring to Plantago major, which is a very common plant in the yards. There's a couple different species in North America. Some of them are native, some of them are not. This large Fluffalotomus Plantago here is a totally different species. He's just going to chill over there for a bit and be set dressing. But anyway, unlike plantains, Plantago major, this plant is native to North America. All of it. All the way up into Canada even, which is really cool. It's got a wide distribution. It's hardy in zones, USDA zones 3 through 8, which, by the way, I should point out, USDA zones only account for how much cold you get, not how much heat, so keep that in mind. And it is classified as an herbaceous perennial, which means it will die back to the ground in winter and then reemerge in spring as if reborn from the clutches of death or whatever. I don't know anything about what soil pH it prefers. However, based on where I found the cluster of these plants, I'm going to say it prefers it's on the acid to slightly acid zone. Just guessing, because it was a pine forest with some hardwoods in there, some scrub oaks, and a few other things like sourwoods, so hard to say. Its exposure, surprisingly, despite being in the woods, was full sun. So I'm assuming full sun to partial shade, possibly some dappled shade. I'm not sure on that last one. That's a guess, because where I found it, it was definitely partial, except probably during the winter when the deciduous trees have dropped their leaves. I'm guessing, of course, on that, how much light it's getting part. But anyway, its height can be anywhere from 6 inches to 1 foot, and its width can be anywhere from 9 inches to 1.5 feet. 1 foot 6 inches. Other names for this plant include pussytoes, plantain-leaved everlasting, lady's tobacco, and Indian tobacco. Now, that last one comes from the fact that at one point in time in North American history is chewed by children in place of actual tobacco. I don't know if it has the same taste, or it has nicotine to get you hooked, or it just was a way to make the kids feel adult. I'm not sure. Additionally, I don't know if it was called Indian tobacco by colonizers, or by the native indigenous population. Hard to say. I mean, I'm pretty sure the native indigenous population didn't call themselves Indians, so maybe? Again, that's something that I didn't find any references to, so I can't really tell you. But anyway, this plant can be grown as a ground cover because it spreads by stoloniferous stems, forming colonies which this one was found in a colony that was about 1 foot wide and 2 feet long, roughly, growing on a lumpy edge of an embankment, I think. if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I can form colonies. Now, the problem with those colonies is that they are exclusively male or female, meaning this plant is dioecious. And there are other plants that do this colony thing, but also are dioecious. So, I've covered these on the blog or in videos, but the dessert kiwis, male or female. Um, Tree of Heaven, Ailanthus, which is actually, I call it garbage tree because it totally is. It forms colonies and spreads by stolons and seeds, and they're all one gender. And there are a few other plants that are like this. It's just a survival strategy because this plant is technically reproducing even though it is not doing it through sexual reproduction. It's very common in the animal and plant kingdom, more so than you think. But anyway, beyond that, this plant is noted to be difficult to cultivate in enriched soils. So if you get one, I would not recommend putting it in compost and fancy schmancy soils. Don't bother with the fertilizer because apparently it doesn't like that. I mean, this plant don't want none if you are holding some fertilizer, hun. Psh. Yeah, y'all knew that joke was coming, but it's true. Now, in the case of the potted plant here, which is next to my lovely assistant, Mischief, the hairball, it is growing in a pure peat moss and vermiculite mix. There is no fertilizer. It was watered with straight water. I did not fertilize it in any way, shape, or form. Because, again, once I found out that it didn't like special soils, I'm reluctant to give it fertilizer until I see positive growth. Now, at the moment, it looks like it's doing pretty well after I dug it up, kind of roughly. I pulled it up, got a string of its stolon with some roots on it, and stuck it in a bag immediately, and it seems to be doing okay. We shall see. The average time for a plant to survive a transplant like this could be weeks, could be months. It's usually about 2 to 3 weeks before they're adapted, and then I can start lowering humidity gradually until they're ready to be out in the wide open world. But until that time, this plant is doing all right here. And then that plastic bag that's under it that you see in the frame is exactly what it was in before I started doing this show. So, with that said, this is pretty much all I have on Plantain-leaved Pussytoes. Now, I'm just going to point out a lot of internet sites say it's medicinal. Just last note here. However, I would consult carefully, speak to people who are qualified. Um, don't believe everything you read on the internet. I have no idea if it's poisonous, and you can't even chew it in lieu of tobacco. I'm not sure. And my specimen is too small for me to test that. And even then, I would triple check. Like, I had to triple check this plant. Because when one of our tour goers pointed it out to me, I wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was actually some kind of weird plantain. I was like, have I discovered something new? Yeah, no. But anyway, with that said, again, that's really, truly, honestly all I have for you on this plant. This is a Wild Tour exclusive. You'll see a post about it on the blog soon enough. But beyond that, as always, folks, if you have any questions or thoughts about this plant, please put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear your comments. If you like this episode, please hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel. We're shooting for 500. Beyond that, the blog is up and running. There's new stuff. And the tours obviously keep going. We're looking at doing one in June, so stay tuned for information on that. And as always, folks, keep them growing. Thanks for watching.